Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and it's time to open up the original new Deluxe that takes part in the Combaticon Tango. Deluxe Class Brawl marches on in with a fresh design, the last unique skeleton among the Combiner Wars retail limb robots. And he's a tank! This can't go wrong. See? It's a tank! The sculpt is coated in surface detail. The shape is legitimately tankular. There are wheels under the treads. But the color's a little ugly. I mean, it's military looking. Military greeny brown. Maybe a hint of fertile dung. Anyway, the party kind of grinds to a halt when you realize the turret can't swivel. It's like the one thing I tend to expect from my tank toys. However, the cannon itself is connected via a nub jointy setup which allows it to pivot up and down. That's something. There's also a 5mm hole up top, but if you want to connect the hand-foot gun in a much smoother looking fashion, flip up the deployable 5mm peg. If the color matched to the turret, it'd look pretty slick. Hey, guess what Unite Warriors is doing? Alright, so Brawl does some weird stuff. His lower body folds around on a crazy nutso Z-folding accordion hinge. There are little friction locks that totally work on mine. I'll talk about this later. The shoulders also do some double-hinged stuff, which are on halfway softly detented mechanisms. Mine work great! I'll talk about that later too. Otherwise, the legs are rookish, and the arms are simple. And the head's a breeze! It's Brawl time! Based a whole lot on his G1 cartoon appearance, this guy's got tread shoulders, tread shins, and even some tread knuckle. He's kind of stumpy but kind of bulky, not really short but a little puffy, his chest is big and his stomach is... gone? Brawl's vaguely complicated torso swing must have ran him head first into a budget wall, and, well, it looks like his midsection went missing. There are a bunch of fan modes and tweaks that people have come up with, but I'll talk about that later. Brawl's head sculpt is a straight-up Scramble City peg head, stylized, stretched, and maybe a little flattened. He can wield his hand-foot gun, as you do. It's functional. He can also hold his tank mode's cannon. Either weapon can be attached to his forearms, Megatron style, if you prefer that look. Or anything else with a 5mm peg, for that matter. This weird, stretchy peg head thing is on a simple swivel, and its transformation platform also lets him look up. Okay, but if you make him look up too far, his head kind of disappears into his upper body. His shoulders are a little bit weird. There's a simple swivel joint for forward and backward motion. Then the transformation hinge functions as a sort of conjoined pair of outward hinges. There's a simple friction hinge, which is the pinned one you can kind of see there. And then there's a second one inside of here, which is detented. Very softly detented, but on mine, it's pretty snappy. It works quite well. Both joints work quite well. There are reports I've seen of one or both of these joints not working very well, and in fact being super loose. On mine, they feel great. On yours, I'm not sure. His waist can swivel left and right. However, here's the thing. With this transformation, I'll just show you what happens on mine. So, on mine, I'm transforming him, and then I get like a solid click in there. Not click, but more like a soft detent for that. And then an audible click there. And as you can see, like, his waist is working. This is the part that didn't work on a lot of people's. I don't know if this is the new common thing. It seems like it probably is, but I feel kind of bad because everyone who got this guy early on, this, like, the whole thing was this whole thing with his weird waist. And, like, it still looks weird. And with mine actually clicking into place, it means if I swing this thing down to try to fill in the stomach gap, it doesn't... This like, prevents this thing from clicking in quite right. Like, there it clicks in, but now you've got this thing hanging down so far it looks a bit, I think, worse. I wanted to just click it out like one click to fill in, just like, or maybe two clicks, just to fill in that space a little bit, but I cannot get the frictions to play right. Like, this thing now pushes back against it all, so I have to leave it like that. A real common fan transformation on this guy was to swivel his waist around and then flip this up, because it all lines up real well. You lose the waist joint and he has a numerical code on his crotch, but if you pop the legs off and flip them around, like, this will totally work. I don't need to do that on mine, and I like to have the painted stuff on the front of his crotch. I like having the waist swivel. I think, this is unfortunate, but yeah, that's the story about this guy and his build quality. I got one that works, and a lot of people didn't. And I got mine off Big Bad Toy Store, so I would assume that if there are any online now, they are probably from this hopefully fixed run. Like, I guess we'll find out in the long run. Anyway, there's a ball socket connection for the hips, dedicated mushroom peg thigh swivel, dedicated knee hinge with 90 degrees of bend. There is an ankle tilt, so this guy's got some rookish qualities going on. Whoops, you don't want to see all that stuff, but without undoing all that, there's still an ankle tilt. And I forgot to mention up here, there's a ball socket elbow, which provides a bicep swivel, but there's also a transformation joint, which sometimes makes his arm shrink back a bit. And the placement of this elbow joint, if you imagine that some of this tread mush is ornamental, I can see this being, you know, the shape of an arm. This just comes off looking kind of short, like it's kind of a stubby forearm. The fist, I wish the fist started on, like, where the fist ends, or, you know, maybe halfway down, because it's got that thing where the joint is inside a stubby forearm, so when you bend his elbow, it doesn't look like a whole lot is happening. Anyway, he's posable enough for a Combiner Wars limb. He's certainly not the most posable or most natural looking in various poses Combiner Wars limb. And I just hope if you pick one up, and you haven't already and you're going to, or you get one of the gift sets or whatever, that the hip works as well as it does on mine. Or I guess the waist locking stuff. Seriously, like, what did I do? Who did I kill? Let's talk limb modes, and let's start with the obvious one. Pop Brawl back into tank mode. The turret has dedicated tabs to shift to the front of the hull, and the back folds away to shorten slightly and add some ankle meat. It's a solid hunk of Bruticus leg. But holy crap, do I wish that turret could spin around. I don't mind the cannon sticking out of his kneecap, but I would like to have had it pointed down flush against his calf. And I mean, I could remove it and do that, kind of, but swiveling turrets, man. Turning Brawl into an arm is a multi-step ordeal. He's the bottom half of the robot, but the top half of a mangled tank. There are dedicated guidance tabs to putting the arms in the right spots, and the final shape is alright. It's a little mushy looking, and if your waist is messed up, I'm not sure how this will work. Also, the legs don't really lock together at all, despite a few guidance tabs, so if your hip joints aren't tight, it could go kinda badly. Floor polish applications all around. This is a neat toy. It's not the best that Combiner Wars has to offer by any means, but with mine in hand, I am kind of enjoying him. That said, I was hoping to see this guy challenge the greatness of Rook Swindle or Dead Wild Street Prowl, and oh baby, how much that did not happen. Also, my experience is coming on the back of a copy of the toy that works across the board. Tons of brawls got out there with non-locking waists or floppy shoulders or combinations of the two. I have no idea how to guarantee getting one like mine. It was theorized that there was a running change, and yet, even some of the later run brawls were reported to have problems, as far as I've read in the feedback threads. Seems to be a lot more rare, so if you're getting a brawl now, it seems like you've got a better chance of a working one. Buyer beware and all that stuff. On the bright side, he still totally works as a leg, even if your copy is a non-locking ragdoll. That sounded like a better statement in my head. I'll still write it into the script. Anyway, don't go out of your way for this toy, but don't regret it if you get one as part of the set. Maybe yours will be built well like mine. Maybe the sun will rise tomorrow. Maybe the stars will welcome the night. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and one Combaticon remains to be reviewed. A tactical mastermind. A squadron commander. Crap, he's another retool. I like ending on the new ones. Oh well.